In the quiet of a rainy afternoon, a devoted canine officer collapsed alone, heart failing, life slipping away, while 15 doctors stood helpless. But her German Shepherd partner, Thunder, refused to let go. Barking through glass, breaking chains, and defying every doubt, one loyal soul saw what medicine missed, a hidden snakebite that could end it all. Sometimes the greatest heroes wear fur. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe. The rain fell soft and steady on the tin roof of the small wooden house at the edge of town. It was late afternoon in autumn, the kind of gray light that makes everything feel older than it is. Inside, the air carried the faint smell of coffee gone cold and polished oak floors. Jessica Jenkins was 35, a woman who had learned to carry her grief like a second skin. She had fair skin marked by faint lines around her eyes from too many sleepless nights, dark brown hair pulled back into a low ponytail that never quite stayed neat. Her body was still strong, athletic, 5 feet 6 inches tall, but there was a quiet weariness in the way she moved, as if every step reminded her of what she had lost. 5 years earlier, her husband, a fellow officer, had been killed in a chase gone wrong. Since then, she had lived alone in this house, speaking little to neighbors, wearing her Navy canine uniform even on days off because it felt like armor. The uniform, long-sleeve shirt with patches, dark cargo pants, black tactical boots, and the lightweight bulletproof vest still bearing her name, Jenkins, was the only thing that made sense anymore. She came home after a long shift at the farmhouse call, boots heavy with mud. Thunder greeted her at the door, as always. He was a 6-year-old German Shepherd, black and tan coat, thick and glossy, a faint scar running across his left muzzle like a thin white thread. His sharp dark brown eyes followed her every move, ears erect, body solid at 26 inches at the shoulder and 80 pounds of quiet strength. He wore his black tactical canine vest with the large police canine patches, the leather collar holding a small metal badge that caught the dim light. Thunder had been her husband's last gift, rescued from a dark place, and in the years since he had become the only living thing she truly trusted. She dropped her keys on the table, felt a sudden tightness in her chest, like a hand closing slowly. The room tilted. Memories rose unbidden. Her husband's laugh in this same kitchen, the way he would rest his hand on Thunder's head and say, "He's got your back, Jess." The pain sharpened, spreading down her arm. She tried to breathe, reached for the counter, but her knees gave way. She fell to the floor, the wood cool against her cheek. The rain tapped on, steady, indifferent. Thunder's bark broke the silence, deep, urgent, not the usual greeting. He circled her, nose close to her face, warm breath on her skin. His tongue touched her hand once, twice. Then he backed away and barked again, louder, pawing at the door. The sound echoed through the empty house. He scratched at the wood, nails scraping, until the neighbor's porch light flickered on outside. Thunder never left her side, but now he was calling for help, his body trembling with something deeper than training, something that felt like knowing. The paramedics arrived in a blur of red and blue lights cutting through the rain. They lifted her gently, voices calm but quick. Jessica's world narrowed to the rhythm of her own shallow breaths and the distant sound of Thunder's low, persistent whine as they carried her away. He followed to the ambulance, leash taut, eyes locked on her face. The door closed, and the Sirishins rose into the wet evening. In the hospital corridor, under harsh fluorescent light, Thunder sat outside the emergency room doors. The staff had tried to take him away, but he refused, body low, a soft growl when anyone came too close. He waited, ears forward, as if listening to a heartbeat only he could hear. Jessica lay inside, machines beeping, doctors murmuring. No one knew yet what had bitten her, hidden beneath the sleeve, slow poison working its way in. But Thunder knew. He had always known. And in that long, quiet hour, something shifted inside Jessica's fading thoughts. She remembered her husband's voice one last time. "Don't give up, Jess. Not on him. Not on yourself." The words settled like rain on dry earth. Thunder was still there, outside the door, waiting. He would not leave. Not now. Not ever. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and old coffee, the fluorescent lights humming low like distant thunder. Outside, the rain had thickened, drumming against the tall windows in steady, patient rhythm. Inside the emergency room, time had slowed to a crawl. Jessica lay still on the narrow bed, her face pale under the harsh white glow. The monitors had gone flat, long, unbroken lines where a heartbeat should have danced. A doctor in his late 50s, gray hair thinning at the temples, beard neatly trimmed but streaked with silver, stood at the foot of the bed. His voice was quiet, practiced, carrying the weight of too many nights like this. He wore green scrubs faded from countless washings, shoulders slightly stooped from years of carrying bad news. "Time of death, 6:42 p.m., he said, almost a whisper. Another doctor, younger, hesitated before pulling the sheet up halfway over Jessica's chest. The room fell silent except for the soft click of machines being turned off. Outside the glass, Thunder pressed his body against the window. His black and tan coat was damp from the rain, the tactical vest dark with moisture. He barked, deep, raw, relentless, each sound shaking his whole frame. His sharp eyes never left Jessica's face. The scar on his muzzle caught the light, a thin reminder of the day she had found him. Years ago, during a raid on a backwoods property, Jessica had kicked open a rusted cage. Inside lay a half-starved German shepherd pup, ribs showing, one eye swollen shut from blows. She had knelt in the dirt, ignoring the shouts around her, and lifted him out. He had trembled in her arms, but never once snapped. That day, something in both of them had been mended. Thunder remembered the cage. He remembered the dark, the hunger, the hands that hurt. And he remembered Jessica's voice, low, steady, telling him he was safe now. She had taken him home, cleaned his wounds, taught him commands with patience he had never known. Together they had run calls, chased suspects through woods and alleys. Once, in a narrow warehouse, a man had raised a gun toward her back. Thunder had felt it before she did, the shift in the air, the wrongness. He had lunged, knocked the man down, and held him until backup arrived. She had knelt beside him after, hand on his head, whispering, "Good boy, good boy." Now, watching her lie so still, something ancient rose in him. Not just training, not just loyalty. A promise he had made in silence the day she saved him. The doctors tried again, chest compressions, another round of drugs, voices rising in quiet urgency. Nothing changed. The older doctor shook his head, eyes tired. "We've done all we can." He reached for the sheet to cover her face. At that moment, Thunder's bark turned into a howl, long, piercing, filled with something beyond sound. He reared up, paws scraping glass, then dropped and bit at the leash someone had tied to the railing. The nylon snapped like dry wood. He bolted past the doors the moment they slid open for a nurse, claws clicking on tile, straight to the bed. He jumped up, careful not to crush her, nose buried in the crook of her arm. His breath came fast, warm against her skin. The room froze. Nurses stepped back. The older doctor stared, mouth open. Thunder pawed gently, then whined, a low, pleading sound that filled every corner. He knew. He had always known. And in that frozen moment, the doctors felt it too. Something older than medicine, something that refused to let go. Jessica's thoughts, drifting in the dark, caught on Thunder's whine. It pulled her back, just a little. She saw her husband's face again, smiling, saying, "He's got your back, Jess." And she felt for the first time in years that maybe she still had something worth holding on to. Thunder stayed there, head resting near her heart, waiting. He would wait as long as it took. Because some promises are not spoken. They are carried in the blood, in the breath, in the quiet spaces between one heartbeat and the next. The rain had not let up. It pressed against the hospital windows like a quiet, persistent witness. Inside the emergency room, the air was thick with the smell of alcohol wipes and the faint metallic tang of fear. The lights overhead burned cold and steady. Thunder had crossed the threshold in one fluid motion, paws scraping tile, claws clicking like small stones. He leaped onto the bed with careful power, his 80-pound frame settling beside Jessica without crushing her. His nose worked fast, buried in the fold of her left sleeve. A low growl rumbled in his throat, then a sharp whine. He bit the fabric, not to tear, but to pull, insistent, desperate. The older doctor stepped forward, hand raised. "Get that dog out of here," he said, voice tight. A security guard, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, uniform stretched across his chest, moved in quickly. He reached for Thunder's harness. "Easy, boy. Come on." Thunder turned his head, eyes flashing, a deep warning growl rising. The guard hesitated, then reached for the tranquilizer pistol at his belt. The room tensed. Nurses froze. The moment hung heavy, sharp as broken glass. Thunder did not back down. He pawed at Jessica's arm again, claws gentle against the sleeve, pulling it higher. A small dark puncture mark appeared, barely noticeable before, now swollen, the skin around it turning an angry bluish black. A faint, sour odor drifted up, like damp earth and something rotten. The older doctor leaned in, brow furrowed. "Wait, what is that smell?" He shone a penlight closer. The wound pulsed faintly, venom spreading slow and silent. Thunder licked once, twice, tongue rough and warm, as if trying to draw the poison out himself. His whine grew softer, pleading. The security guard lowered the pistol. No one spoke. The only sound was Thunder's breath, quick, ragged, and the rain tapping on glass like forgotten tears. In that suspended second, something shifted in the room. The doctor's face changed, first disbelief, then dawning horror, then a quiet awe. "It's a snakebite. God help us, it's a viper." He looked at Thunder, really looked, and saw not a dog gone mad, but a creature who had seen what no machine could. The older man's hand trembled as he called for antivenom. Nurses moved again, voices low and urgent. Thunder stayed where he was, head lowered, eyes fixed on Jessica's face. His own eyes were rimmed red, wet, as though he understood the weight of every lost moment. He had known the bite was there all along, had felt it in the air at the farmhouse, had carried the knowledge through the ambulance ride, through the silence of the corridor. Now he stood guard, body still, refusing to leave her side. Jessica's mind, adrift in darkness, felt the warmth of his tongue on her skin. It was faint, like sunlight breaking through clouds after a long storm. She remembered the farmhouse call earlier that day, the tall grass, the old barn, the quick flash of scales she had dismissed as nothing. She remembered Thunder's sudden bark then, the way he had circled her legs, alert. She had patted his head and said, "It's okay, boy." Now she understood. He had tried to warn her, and when no one else could hear, he had refused to be silent. In the quiet of her fading thoughts, a small, tender forgiveness bloomed. Not for the snake, not for the doctors, but for herself. For all the years she had carried guilt like a stone, believing she had failed the ones she loved. Thunder had never believed that. He had waited. He had fought. The antivenom arrived in a clear vial, needle glinting under the light. The doctor worked quickly, steady hands now. Thunder watched, ears forward, tail still. He did not move, even as the room filled with new sounds, beeps returning, voices softening. He simply stayed, breath warm on her wrist, a living promise that some things endure beyond reason, beyond loss. And in that long, unbroken moment, the room held its breath with him. The rain had eased to a soft drizzle by morning. Sunlight filtered weakly through the blinds, casting thin gold bars across the hospital room. The air smelled faintly of fresh linens and the lingering trace of antiseptic, now softened by the quiet return of life. The older doctor worked with steady hands. He slid the needle into Jessica's vein, the clear antivenom flowing in like a slow promise. Minutes passed, long, heavy ones, before the monitor answered. A single beep, then another. The flat line stirred, rose into a fragile rhythm. The doctor exhaled, shoulders dropping as if a weight had lifted he had not known he carried. He looked at Thunder, still curled at the foot of the bed, black and tan coat rising and falling with each careful breath. The dog's sharp eyes never wavered from Jessica's face. His tail gave the smallest thump against the blanket, once, twice, like a heartbeat echoing back. Jessica surfaced slowly, as if climbing out of deep water. Her eyelids fluttered. The room came into focus. White walls, the soft hum of machines, the warm weight of Thunder beside her. She felt his fur against her hand, coarse yet comforting. Her throat was dry, voice a whisper. Thunder? The word barely carried, but he lifted his head, ears forward, eyes bright with something deeper than relief. A nurse leaned in, voice gentle. He saved you, ma'am. Wouldn't let us give up. They told her everything, the flatline, the howl, the desperate pawing at her sleeve, the moment the wound was revealed. Jessica listened, eyes filling. She reached out, fingers trembling, and rested her palm on Thunder's broad head. You never stop believing in me, she whispered. Never. Thunder pressed closer, a low rumble in his throat. Not a growl, but something softer, like gratitude given voice. In the days that followed, the story slipped out of the hospital like water through cracked stone. Reporters came quietly at first, then in greater numbers. Headlines spoke of the miracle dog, the canine who refused to let his partner die. Children sent drawings, Thunder with a cape, Jessica smiling beside him. Police departments across the state shared the tale, a quiet reminder of what loyalty could mean. Jessica, still weak but growing stronger, asked to see the doctors. She met them in the quiet lounge down the hall. The older one came in last, hair more silver now under the fluorescent light, eyes carrying the same weariness but softened by something new. She looked at him steadily. You did everything you could, she said, but sometimes the answer doesn't come from tests or machines. She glanced toward the doorway where Thunder waited, patient as ever. It comes from here. She touched her chest. The doctor nodded, throat working. I've practiced medicine 40 years, he said quietly, and I've never seen anything like him. Jessica smiled, small and real. He's more than a partner. He's family. Thunder stayed close through it all. He lay on the cool tile floor beside her bed at night, ears twitching at every sound. When she woke from fitful sleep, his dark eyes were there, steady, knowing. She thought of the farmhouse again, the tall grass, the quick flick of scales she had ignored. She thought of her husband, gone 5 years, and how Thunder had been his last gift, a bridge between what was lost and what remained. In the silence of those hospital nights, she felt the old guilt loosen its grip. Thunder had not judged her for the mistakes, the moments of doubt. He had simply stayed. And in staying, he had taught her something she had forgotten, that love does not demand perfection. It only asks for presence. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the room in warm amber, Jessica rested her hand on Thunder's head. His tail moved slowly, a gentle rhythm. She whispered, "We're going to be okay, boy. Together." The words settled into the quiet like rain on dry earth. Thunder sighed, a deep, contented sound, and closed his eyes. In that soft, unbroken moment, healing began, not just in her body, but in the places she had long kept hidden. Weeks had passed since the hospital discharged her. The rain had given way to crisp winter air, the kind that carries the scent of pine and distant wood smoke. Back at the small house on the edge of town, the porch light glowed soft against the early dark, welcoming them home. Jessica returned to duty on a quiet Monday morning. She stepped out of the cruiser in her familiar Navy K-9 uniform, long-sleeve shirt with patches, dark cargo pants, black tactical boots, the lightweight vest still bearing her name. Her body felt stronger now, but something deeper had shifted. She no longer rushed past small signs, the flicker of unease in a suspect's eyes, the subtle tilt of Thunder's ears. She noticed them. She honored them. Thunder walked at her heel, black and tan coat gleaming, Tactical vest snug, the metal badge on his collar catching the low sun. He moved with the same quiet certainty he always had, but now Jessica saw him differently. Not just a partner, but a teacher. She had decided to adopt another dog from the shelter, a young German Shepherd mix with wary eyes and a gentle spirit. She named him Echo. The name felt right, like a promise to listen. At the station, they held a small ceremony in the briefing room, folding chairs arranged in rows, coffee in paper cups, the smell of old wood and fresh ink. Colleagues who had once kept their distance now stood close. The captain, a man in his 60s with salt and pepper hair and a voice worn smooth by years of giving orders, spoke first. "Jessica, Thunder showed us something we sometimes forget." He paused, throat tight. "Loyalty isn't a word. It's a choice, made over and over." Jessica stood beside Thunder, hand resting lightly on his head. She spoke briefly, voice steady but soft. "He didn't save me because he had to. He saved me because he loved me. And that love reminded me I'm still worth saving." The room was quiet after. A few officers wiped their eyes. Thunder sat tall, ears forward, as if he understood every word. That night the house was still. The clock on the wall ticked softly. Jessica sat on the worn couch, Thunder at her feet, Echo curled in a blanket nearby. She held Thunder's collar in her hands, the old leather one with the small metal badge. In the lamplight, she took a fine tool and carefully etched her husband's name beside the badge, Tom. Then she opened a small locket she had kept in a drawer for years. Inside were 2 tiny photos, one of Tom smiling, one of Thunder as a pup. She slipped them into the locket, closed it, and fastened it back onto the collar. Thunder lifted his head, dark eyes meeting hers. She stroked the scar on his muzzle, the one from the cage she had opened so long ago. "You didn't just save my life," she whispered. "You reminded me why I live. Love without conditions, the way he loved us both." Thunder leaned into her hand, a low sigh escaping him. The room held only the sound of their breathing, slow and even. She thought of the farmhouse, the hidden bite, the flat line, the howl that pulled her back. She thought of Tom's last words to her, "Don't give up, Jess." And she understood now that he had not been speaking only of the job. He had been speaking of life, of staying open, of letting love in even when it hurt. Thunder had carried that message forward, patient and unyielding. Jessica felt the old weight lift, not all at once, but gently, like frost melting under morning sun. She was not whole yet, but she was healing, and she was not alone. Outside, the wind moved through the pines, soft and steady. Inside, 3 hearts beat in quiet rhythm. Jessica, Thunder, Echo. A family, small and imperfect, but real. She rested her forehead against Thunder's, closed her eyes, and smiled. "We've got the rest of the road ahead, boy, and we'll walk it together." In that long, tender silence, the promise settled deep. Some heroes wear badges, but the truest ones wear fur. Friends, as the years gather like quiet shadows, loneliness can creep in, illness can weigh heavy on body and heart, and the days sometimes feel too still. But remember, love, true, unconditional love, still finds a way, just like Thunder never gave up on Jessica. You are never truly alone. Hold fast to the small kindnesses, the faithful companions, and the memories that warm you. Stay strong, cherish your health, reach out when the silence grows loud. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs it, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more tales of hope. May the Lord bless and keep you, every single one of you, through every quiet night and every new dawn.